One of my best friends is someone I just click with for some odd reason. We met at a convention. We were dressed as people from the same anime series. It was really weird because we barely spoke to each other, but we realized we were following each other around. Eventually I just asked, hey, want to go get something to eat? And we went somewhere and ate lol. There was just something about her, I can't explain what, that made me feel like I just had to be good friends with her. I did also. My best friend of over 25 years. We have zero in common. We ended up roommates, but had never met each other. In college we were both friends with the same girl. We were both needing stuff, so we rode together to the store. We have nothing in common, but clicked as friends. When I met my husband, the first time we spoke, I felt a kind of internal pull towards him, as if I knew on some subconscious level that he was my person. It wasn't anything major. He introduced himself and asked me out for dinner. I hadn't been dating for about 3 years, and I turned down plenty of dates in that time, but I knew I had to say yes. I haven't dated anyone in 5 years, but have done causal things. How do you know when you are ready to have someone in your life? I feel like I don't even know if I can like anyone anymore. I have been single for so long. You can tell them anything without judgment, and there's a natural flow to the convo. With them, bonding is easy and fun. I'd say that just about sums it all up. I had these 4 sisters at daycare that I just immediately clicked with. I was their teacher. I just felt very drawn to them, and we all got attached to each other quickly. Not sure why, I just did. They would tell me about their dad all the time. He was a single dad raising them alone. I was a single mom raising my daughter alone too. Then they'd go home and tell their dad about me. Their dad came in one day to pick them up. He usually didn't get them till I was clocked out. And I swear it was like a switch went off in my brain and I just had to have him. I'd been single for over 3 years at that point with absolutely no desire to date, or be in a relationship or even have sex with anyone. A month later we were in a relationship. That's beautiful. IDK, I've only experienced it twice in my life. It's like a gravitational pull. It's also weird BC, you can almost feel them looking at you. Like, you're not looking at them, but you still feel the heat of their eyes on you, even though logically it makes no sense, because you can't see them. But you just know when they are, and when they're looking away. What wound up happening with those 2 people? I'll never forget it. I flew home one summer, and went out with the same group of friends, except this time, a new guy was with the group. We caught each other staring across the club, and when I tried walking by him, his hand slightly grabs mine, and we felt a literal shock. I couldn't take another step. His eyes had me in a trance the way the sparks flew as he slid his hands up my arms. When we kissed I felt him in my DNA. Till this very day, I don't know why. I don't know what made him different. To best explain it, it was chemical. Best summer of my entire life. Sounds amazing. But, do I understand this correctly? You never met him again after that summer? We just recognized each other. It felt natural, real, and ephemeral. Because I suffered mental illness and lacked boundaries. Alexander, Sandy, from New Zealand, met in Santorini, had to leave the next day, never forgot him. I would have married him that night, never even kissed or held hands. Still think about him 30 years later, such a connection. It is up to the person. Some people are good listeners and you can share your issues. Some are funny, and you forget about your issues. I have crossed roads with both, but all I want is that to be one person. No clue why, but the first time we met something just clicked. I'm an introvert, and have serious trust issues. A new woman was hired in the office where I was working. It was like we knew each other in another lifetime. There was just something about her that I could honestly trust. Though we are many miles apart now, we are still friends. Few months ago, when I was walking, I saw a group of foreigners coming in the opposite direction. That portion of the lane was pretty narrow, and you couldn't cross each other without getting close. Like not very close, but uncomfortable for a stranger close. So I decided to wait for them to pass by. One guy in that group made eye contact with me all while he crossed. That was the most intense eye contact I have ever had. Both of us didn't break it even once. I got goosebumps and felt he is reading me in and out. I never saw him again, but that's one vivid memory. I had the same thing happen passing a guy in the street once, except it was the full lightning bolt too. When our eyes met I literally felt like I was physically jolted and even reeled back a second. The weird thing was he did as well. We both looked at each other for a split second after we stopped, as if to say what the hell was that, then both walked on. I looked back at him, and he did the same. Kicking myself for not stopping. Because we were in the ladies' bathroom at a bar. Those connections always last. Women for women. We had the same sarcastic wit and challenged each other intellectually. I once went out with a group of friends at an outside restaurant bar and there were a few guys we didn't know who sat at our table across from us. All of them were drunk and obnoxious, but there was one guy who was super chill and such a gentleman and didn't fit in with his friend group at all. We sparked up a convo and his eye contact was so intense it sent chills up my spine. His eyes didn't leave mine for a minute. It also helped that he was incredibly good looking and he was extremely interesting. We talked like we had known each other for years. His friends pulled him away to go somewhere else and he said he'd be back. He never came back and I never saw him again. I still remember him very clearly and that was almost 6 years ago. I think it was the initial connection added with the prolonged eye contact that just made me never forget him. Whenever a guy is invested in getting to know me, interrogating me for imaginary points/red flag in his head doesn't count, asking questions and actually giving a *** about my opinion and personality, not being after a sexy picture or a sexy time. You know, just being treated like an actual human being with thoughts and emotions. Crazy, I know, lol, rare and very attractive. We met up one night, and when we first saw each other it was kind of instantly it felt safe. Physically saw no flaws in him. When we talked it felt effortless and honestly I've never laughed so much with anyone. I felt like I had known him my whole life. My soul recognized his, and we both accepted each other. We got married after 3 months. Best decisions ever. I felt really close to one of my coworkers. He went to a different department. It just felt like he got me and conversations flowed, but the silence wasn't awkward either. I think I felt so close to him because we talked about some deep and personal things in our lives. It wasn't even in person, it was online, through messages with a total stranger. I just felt like I could trust this person more than anyone else. And the first night we talked to each other I ended up telling him my whole story and we absolutely trauma dumped on each other. It just felt right. Same story. I don't know really, but I believe it's that wonderful concept of chemistry. I wouldn't be able to give a concrete and logical why, but for once someone was on the same level as me, didn't felt offended about how I talk, and was reciprocating this energy. I can sound rude to some people, while I'm actually not, lol, which never happened before. Then we just discovered that we are basically like the same person, but also so different. It's weird, because one of my best friends is someone I have almost nothing in common with on paper. We don't have the same religious or political outlook on things, and we don't have the same friends. We met because we're in the same line of work, and connected online one day for what I'm sure we both thought would be a brief conversation. But she's the funniest person I've ever met, and we have the same style of sarcastic/dark humor. Every time I confide my personal secrets in her I don't feel judged, and we just click. Who knows? We've been friends for almost a decade now. 4 days after a miscarriage of a very wanted baby, I went to get blood work done to make sure things were as they should be following my D&C. I'm sure I looked very miserable as I thought about how just 2 weeks ago I'd sat in the same chair, excitedly getting blood work to confirm my pregnancy. The phlebotomist said, completely out of nowhere, "Don't worry, you're going to get that baby girl." I kind of scoffed and asked her how she could know that. She replied, "Because you are a person who is going to have all the desires of her heart." Then she bandaged my arm, hugged me lightly, and sent me on my way. I was in shock. It was so poignant and unexpected and the most incredibly comforting thing to hear in my grief. I have twin toddler girls now. I never forgot her. There was once a guy I clicked with instantaneously, found him irritating, but endearing, became one of my best friends. He held my hand once and literally felt like the entire tension in my being relaxed, like my soul took a deep breath. Anyways, he passed away from leukemia a year after we met. It's been 10 years and I miss you, bud. I remember seeing a friend of mine for the first time at school. She was new at my school, a punk, and thus we immediately shared a connection. I skipped my class to show her the school and talk in the cafeteria. Spent the next 2 years doing mischief, going to concerts and so on. Splendid times. We are living far away from each other, but we are still friends after all those years.